Hello, this is Alex. Today we're going to be making an introduction to Web3. Understanding web is important for development on Web3, which is an era for World Wide Web. So, before we get into Web3, we first need to understand World Wide Web and its predecessors, Web 1 and Web 2. So before we get into the development aspects of Web3, we first need to understand World Wide Web, what was it built for, and how it works today. So World Wide Web is a platform that is built on top of the internet. Internet is the physical intermediary that connects us all around the world. And the World Wide Web is the software platform that is built on top of it by its users. Users share information in the formats of hypertext documents using web servers, host these information on those web servers, and allow other users to see those information using web browsers. So, World Wide Web is mostly about sharing information and connecting people all around the world. Over the years, World Wide Web was subject to evolution. We name these different versions and different eras of World Wide Web differently. Different versions had different characteristics. Earlier versions, for example, the Web 1, was more about retrieving some data, reading it, and a small number of people were creating the content and sharing it. Then we had a version where it was more about interacting with the web and socializing, creating your own content, and here most of the users became the creators. But the most important difference between the first version and the second version was that now there were these enormous companies that created web applications as intermediaries for you to create your own content. So people were highly dependent on these intermediaries. Finally, we are approaching to this new era of web where new characteristics are developing and gaining importance, such as sovereignty, privacy, security, decentralization, optimization. So let's continue with Web 3. Web 3, we hope that it solves most of the problems that come with Web 2, mainly centralization. Actually, I say that we hope that it solves it because we know that it is at an early stage still. So that's the first point that I would like to point out about it. Right now, we cannot necessarily say that we're in the era of Web 3. We're still using Twitter to post our stuff, creating our Facebook pages, posting on Instagram, and even using WhatsApp. All of these are still in our lives that are applications of Web 2 actually. But with the emergence of blockchain, and especially Ethereum and smart contracts in the late years, the idea of Web3 has gained popularity, and we are kind of like in this transition era. And as we are not still in the era of Web3, it actually does not exist yet. But people try to do forecasts about it, do predictions about it, and understand what it is. And one of the most popular ideas about it is that it is going to be about these new technologies. AI, machine learning, and blockchain. With AI and machine learning, the data that is out there is going to be utilized in an even more optimized way. And kind of like the data, we're going to be part of this data space out there. And AI and machine learning is going to be putting in good usage, hopefully. And blockchain, which is going to be our focus as Web3 engineers, is going to be the backbone of all of these stuff. All of the stuff that is going to be built on blockchain and leveraging blockchain. As decentralization is at the heart of blockchain, starting from distributed ledgers, Bitcoin, and then continuing with Ethereum right now, decentralization and decentralized applications are going to be the most important aspect of Web3. And this is going to be enabled thanks to it being based on blockchain. So actually, building on Web3 is going to mean building on blockchain or on smart contracts. So there are some key features of Web3 or some features that we expect Web3 to have. These are also important in a sense that we have to keep these in mind while we're building applications for Web3 or decentralized applications. First of all, obviously, as it is being built on blockchain, it is going to be decentralized. Then it is going to be secure. The way we share our data so that other people do not steal it or put it in malicious usage, it is going to be secure. It is aiming to be secure. Also, privacy is going to be one of the most important issues of it. Right now in Web 2, with centralized companies and applications, privacy has become an important issue and a problem actually. And with Web 3, we're hoping to solve this issue. And finally, another important pinpoint is it being interoperable. All of the stuff that is being built on top of it is going to be interoperable, which means the assets of applications, different applications, can be shared among each other. This can be given, one example can be given, for instance, an image that you share on Instagram is also going to be shared in another platform, does not necessarily belong to Facebook, for instance. Let's take a closer look in each and every of these features one by one. So what does decentralized mean? What does decentralized applications mean? It mainly means that there is no central authority. So the application or the use case does not necessarily rely on an authority that has to decide on an end result. This also means it being trustless. So the users of the application or whatever it is do not need to trust somebody on the decision that is going to be made. The network itself or the application itself is going to be deciding on the outcome, on the expected outcome, obviously, and the users are going to know that it is not going to lie or try to manipulate the information or anything like that. So this also means that the code is law. So the code is going to be accepted by the users of it, who are before they use it, actually they're going to see the code, and if they are using it, means that they are basically agreeing with the law, agreeing with the code, and then interacting with it. So the code becomes law, and the end result is always decided according to that law, without allowing anybody to change it. Security is another important issue that we hope Web3 solves or at least improves. And we see that it is actually improving it at the early stages of it. The most important point is that a lot of cryptographic algorithms and concepts are being utilized in a lot of different applications. Two of the most important ones, in my opinion, are zero-knowledge protocols and private public keys. Zero-knowledge protocols enables you to prove that you have an information without telling the information. This basically prevents an intermediary attack who wants to basically steal the information, where you aim to prove the third party that you have the information without having the need to send the information to them, so that you can both prevent them from stealing this information and an intruder to steal this information as well. Private public keys also is a way to prove that it is you who is trying to have access to an application, a data or something like that on the web. This again disables from somebody else to steal your information or steal something that belongs to you on web. There is also consensus mechanisms, which is an important concept in distributed systems, where we will deep dive into it a lot more in the consensus mechanisms lecture, but to briefly mention it, it is basically a lot of different computers, a lot of different independent nodes agreeing on one truth or one fact. This basically protects from intruders to manipulate an information or inject malicious information into some sort of series of informations to redirect it or use it in their own advantage, take advantage from it. And finally, it is open source. Most of the stuff, not most of the stuff actually, all of these smart contracts are open source. You can just go ahead and check it out on the chain scanners. You can check out all of the contracts that is deployed on Ethereum, for example, in the website Etherscan, and see what it does, how it works, and also come to the conclusion if it is going to harm you in a way or not. So that also brings another security improvement compared to the Web 2 applications, which basically hide most of their code base and how their code works. Privacy. Maybe this is one of the most important phenomena out there and one of the most that is being spoken about. When Satoshi Nakamoto has published Bitcoin white paper, one of the key issues that he focused on was privacy and the problem with transactions that are not actually private and needed an intermediary to receive your information, all sorts of information. The example to this can be given by banks having the need to get your information like your mother's maiden name or your address, your name and surname even. You actually do not need any of these, Satoshi has proved with Bitcoin. So when it comes to Web3 and the applications in Web3, also privacy is an important issue. As most of the code is open source, as we've talked about in security as well, you know if the code is stealing your information or using your information without your permission. So that's a point that definitely improves the privacy. When it comes to the Web2 applications, you do not know, you have no idea how they are utilizing your data. What kind of algorithms is your data going through? You have no idea about. In Web3, again, data belongs to the users, unlike Web2. In Web2, all of the data, even the data that you possess, you're not aware you possess, but belongs to Web2 companies, and they are using it into their own advantage to optimize us, basically. But in Web3, as everything is open source and everything is distributed, users get to decide on how to share data, how to use their data, or what portion of it they want to share. It's all up to the users. And third, as introduced in the Bitcoin, the anonymous transactions are possible in Web3. We have this diagram to the right here, which shows how anonymous transactions differ from the regular transactions that we had using banks. In a bank, what would happen is you would basically share your identity and the transactions and trusted third party. Using the trusted third party, you would share your identity and the transaction you want to make, and they would basically make it possible. But at the end of the day, they receive all of the data and your identity. They know who you are, what you are sending, and who you are sending it. But the public does not have access to that information. Only the bank has. With Bitcoin and with Web3, what is being aimed and what is being done actually is that the identities are hidden. So you do not need to share your identity with anyone, any trusted third party, public, no one, or even the person on the other end you're sending the transaction to, with some use of extra applications, may not know your identity. That is even possible. But the only thing that is known is the transactions. As the chain is public and everybody can scan it and see what is happening in it, what kind of transactions happen, what kind of smart contract is being interacted with, everybody can see all of that information. But the question to who is doing that has no answer in the public, at least. Only you know that you're doing whatever you are doing. So that's a really important. That's a really important privacy improvement compared to banking in the earlier eras. Interoperability. When it comes to interoperability, this is also something that is introduced only in Web3 that we did not have in Web2. Interoperability basically means that different applications, different websites, you can think of it like that, can share data among each other and actually utilize each other's data. So it is a more collective environment, if that's the right way to put it. This makes the web more customizable, meaning that all of the data that you're using actually can be used in another application as well. Or all of the stuff that you're building can be used by somebody else as well, which makes somebody else's application more customizable. They can use your data, you can use their data, their resources, and use it to add it to your application. Second, it makes it more decentralized. Applications and also networks being interoperable makes the web even more decentralized. We have to look at this through the perspective of networks, actually. When there are more networks out there, and these networks can operate between each other and communicate with each other, the web basically becomes even more decentralized. More networks means more nodes, more independent nodes from each other, and even from each other's protocols and the way they work. It makes it more decentralized. And third, it makes it open to collaboration. In what sense, you may ask? For example, in a video game, there are items, right? As you level up or as you complete missions, you are awarded with items. These in-game items can be shared among different games, making those two different game projects collaborate with each other and give the sense of being a part of the Web3 to the user, in a sense. And at the end of the day, maybe create this abstract idea of metaverse. So that was it for Introduction to Web3. This was an important foundation for starting development on Web3. While you are developing applications, creating new projects on Web3, always keep in mind these heuristics and these ideas behind Web3 and blockchain and what kind of missions it has.